able to articulate clear reasoning. The teacher's understanding of critical thinking has changed. Therefore, how I plan or what I look for for critical thinking has changed. I think we need to take time to explore and be purposeful with it. And then I, the teacher again, have a more clear understanding of what critical thinking is. I would like more time to teach, learn, and familiarize myself with what it looks like across all subjects. And then I said I could share report card data with you. So these are the areas that we felt represented critical thinking on the report card. So the first one is critical thinking in ELA, which is a gimme. The second one is social studies critical thinking, also a gimme. We said that problem solving was critical thinking in math. We said that inquiry was critical thinking in science. And then we talked about citizenship, that ability to get along with others and solve your problems at recess and in the classroom, that represented critical thinking within learning behaviors. So the very far left bar in each set is our 2019 start, and then it goes up to this year, which is the last one. So if you look through at ELA and social studies, something interesting happens where we peak last year and then we drop down a couple percent. So the bars represent getting a 2, 3, or a 4 on report cards. So if you look at ELA this year, 91.5% of our kids from grade 1 to grade 6 scored a 2 to 4 on their report card, but the previous year there were 94.5. So that dropped a little bit this year, but it's significantly higher than the 84.4% that we started with. A similar thing happened in social studies, where we went up and we peaked last year, which was our COVID year, which is an interesting thing. And then in the other areas, we've kind of showed steady gains. So in math, there's been an increase of like 1% or 2 each year, where more and more kids are scoring better in problem solving. In science, we actually plateaued this year and last year at 95.4%. We're exactly the same. And citizenship kind of represents, or is kind of similar to problem solving, where we've slowly kind of crept up. I'm not sure why the drop that we had, but it's not a substantial drop, and it's in ELA and social studies. It could be different cohorts. It could be that we lost a grade 6 group and then a grade 1 group came from kindergarten, and there may have been differences in that account for that. I'm not sure, but I'm still quite pleased that if you compare that to our original baseline data, that there's been significant improvement. I'll be curious to see what next year brings. And then this is just so you can see it. This was the teachers developed a series of rubrics. We asked them to bring some work samples and talk about what constituted a 1, 2, 3, and 4 as a report card mark on those various work samples, and then to come up with some sort of a rubric. And this is something that we're experimenting with on the 9th as well. Teachers have been asked to do a common task and then bring it, and then they're going to sit in cohorts and see if it works for them to go through this rubric and assess the assignment that they've got and see if they're all in agreement. And if they are, then fantastic, we've done a wonderful job of these rubrics. And if they aren't, or if the rubrics don't work for them, then we're going to have to revisit that. And then as far as PD goes, I've had ongoing conversations for a few years with teachers about what's effective PD for them, and we have worked to incorporate that feedback into our professional development plan this year and in previous years and in the coming year as well. So they've said that when possible, ongoing PD over time is preferable to one-offs, and so this year was entirely that. We didn't do one-offs this year. Every one of our PD sessions built on the previous ones in the area of the progressions, the literacy progressions, and also in our school goal. They said that knowledgeable, skilled presenters make a huge difference. So we had our program leaders come in to do a bunch of support for us with our PD, and they are knowledgeable, skilled presenters. Frankly, my team leader is as well, Andrea Maxwell, and she does a lot of the critical thinking work with the teachers. And then they like seeing strategies at work in their classrooms. And we didn't do that this year, but in the past we've used program leaders and had them come in and demonstrate in the classroom. And then I've set up time for teachers to go and debrief with them so that they've seen strategies and they've seen ideas in the classroom. We didn't do that this year, but it is something that they like and something that I will do in the future. And then we used our divisional PD days to develop teachers' understanding and confidence with using the Sunrise literacy progressions and to provide ongoing PD in the area of critical thinking. And of course, I said the program leaders were with us and supporting us all the way on that. Just a picture for you. and then we can flip through, because it really is just a picture. And then just as far as money goes, you give us school-based decision-making dollars. And so I used some of those dollars to upgrade our guided reading books, and that's what our kindergarten to grade 2 kids are using to build their critical thinking skills and their reading skills. I used that as well to buy math manipulative kits for many of the kids so that there could be a hands-on component to math. Lots of our kids are significantly better at demonstrating their understanding if they can put their hands on things as opposed to looking at just the abstract math, and so that improved their thinking around that. And then I bought extra support services teacher time to support our K-2 cohort, and that's where our data showed that we could use the most support. And then when we got a safe and caring schools teacher as well, I put her around the school, but primarily in kindergarten to grade 2 to support teachers there. And then my team leader, Andrea Maxwell, did ongoing professional development. I spoke to that already. Our teacher teams just started using teaching sprints as a way of making data-informed decisions and developing their own repertoire of critical thinking strategies. We're going into starting the first round of that actually right now, where we've had a couple meetings and teachers are just getting ready to start doing some teaching and experimenting with that. And then our educational assistants also receive regular PD every month from division staff, so from clinicians. Lars has come in before to do PD for them. And I feel like I'm missing a slide, maybe not. Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, so in April last month, we met to decide what we were going to do next year and to see what our progress was like this year in our goals. We decided that lots has got in the way of us learning about our school goals since 2019. We've certainly made a lot of progress, and again, I said I'm really happy with the difference between our baseline and the now, but we feel like we haven't had a full year to just focus on our goal, and we kind of all want that. So we feel like we would benefit from a full year of focusing and learning just about our school goal. We've had tons of disruptions. We feel like there's still more knowledge to get. We have a clearer understanding of our own thinking and what we want to do with kids, and then we just want more time to explore and be purposeful with our learning. It could be that this is the last time that we have this goal. It could be that it's run its course and it's time to move on to something else. But for this coming year, teachers were unanimous in saying that they just wanted to have one solid year of doing this school goal and focusing on it. So that is what our goal will be. It will be a continuation of this year's goal. And I think that is everything that I have for you. Do you have questions?
Thanks, Dave. Any questions here, trustees? Trustee Pachkowski.
Thanks for the presentation. It was really good. You know, when we talk about your community, it's come up at this board a couple times, and Trustee Reed's been a big advocate for it, but it's always about, you know, demand and that. I just wonder if you get a lot of families coming to you inquiring about our French immersion program, and sort of what your thoughts are on that.
I do not. I think that families, when they come in, know where French immersion is available, and I actually haven't had very many questions at all regarding that, and can always just direct them to other schools.
Other questions for Dave? Trustee Harris?
Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that critical thinking requires more than one-word answers. So it's not a true or false or a 2 + 2 is 4 kind of thing. So if you're a shy or introvert student, is this helping them get out of their shell?
So I would suggest that the goal itself is probably not the thing to get kids out of their shell, but that becomes the atmosphere of the classroom, regardless of what the goal is. But I do think that critical thinking requires kids sometimes to work in groups, and I think that sometimes small groups are a little bit safer for kids who are a little bit more introverted to be able to express their thinking, and sometimes that might be the thing that gets kids talking more, participating more, that sort of thing. So that would be just my guess. So I don't think goal related more so much as classroom environment related.
Others for Dave? So Dave, I have one. Good for you, certainly, about, and I see some of the stuff that the evidence that you're collecting, you know, whether it's observations and your teacher comments and your report card data that's showing you certainly as to where you're going. You've got a goal for 22-23 that all of our students will improve their ability. That's a great goal. Improve their ability at this, improve their ability this. What are you shooting for?
It's funny you asked me that question, because when I was reading what we said last year, I was thinking, if I say every student, then really what I should be looking at is not this general chart of averages, right? What I should be looking at is each student and comparing each student. But even that becomes like a really difficult measure, because it's a different year. So then is a 3 one year equivalent to a 3 the following year, when things presumably get a little bit more difficult? And if we're only talking about a 4 scale, a 1 to 4, so how do I know if a child gets better if they're a 3 one year or 3 the next year, or 4 1 year to 4? Like, maybe they're better or maybe they're worse within that number. Like, it's a really difficult thing. So that's a really, really interesting question. For me, my way of assessing it has to do with exactly what I've given you with report card data. So I'm looking at, is our school increasing in general? So it's not really an every student, I suppose. It's sort of a school average. And what I've realized with this too is that there are no magic pills that will suddenly jump things up 10%. That won't happen. So our increases, for me, I would be really happy with like a 2 or 3% increase. But at the same time, I'm pretty quick to say that a 2% drop isn't very much. So I'm not sure if that's. I'm not even sure where I'm trying to go with that. But I don't think that we're going to have a great big jump. But I would be happy with a smaller one. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I would love you to be able to come and tell Trustee Reed that what we're doing is working, and this is how I know why. Because if you can't tell us that it's working, what are you doing it for then? And so part of it all is we all want to know is you've got some real good stuff here as to what you're doing, but at the end of the day, we want to know from your perspective, is it working? Because the next question coming out of our mouth is, how do you know?
And my how do I know is exactly what I presented to you. So when I talk to teachers and teachers say to me that kids are more comfortable asking deeper or answering deeper questions, then I think it's working. When teachers say to me that kids feel value in justifying their answers, then I think it's working. When I look at report card marks and I see there's an increase from our baseline, then I think that assessment has happened. When teachers say to me, we're learning more about this and teaching it differently, then I think it's working. So those are all the kinds of things that I look at. Exactly the things I presented to you are why I think this is working.
Thanks, Dave. That's what I was looking for. Yeah?
Part of me wants to answer the question, but then part of me wants to make you think critically, Dave, so I'm not sure which way I'm going to go with it. It's interesting you picked this bulletin board as your last slideshow, because this is not the same bulletin board that I see every time I walk into your school. So what does that tell you about how you showcase some of what your kids are doing?
What bulletin board do you see when you come into my school?
The stuff on the bulletin board, Dave. Sorry, bad questioning.
I think that is. Like that is our school goals bulletin board. It does get added to, but it never gets taken away from. So yeah, it's that is the bulletin board that you see. And as teachers do things, we add to that bulletin board. So it's ever changing. I see where you're going with that now, Timko.
Trustee Petchkowski.
I just had one more comment, and you've taken the warm and fuzzy feeling I had about my children who go to school and have these 1 to 4, you know, the rating scale, and a 4, you know, there's a lot of value in what you said. A 4 could mean a 7.5, and a 3 could mean a 5 out of 10. If you're looking at a 10, and so it's just an interesting thought. I never thought about it that way before, but now I'm not feeling so good about my child's report card anymore. But.
And I think you should feel good about your child's performance no matter what.
If there's nothing else for Dave, So thanks very much for coming out and sharing with us. And again, we would very much like to see what the collection of your information at the end of the year to tell us as to where things are. And again, yeah, I think that we have no problem about providing you with the resources. The issue is, at the end of the day, Dave, we want to know, is it working? And what and how can you tell us that? So good for you. Nice work. Thank you. Yep.
So thank you, Dave. Just to be clear, every time I do come into your school, the stuff on the bulletin board is where I gravitate because there is always something new up there that I can look at.
Dave's going to go look at that bulletin board tomorrow and say, okay, where's that coming from, that guy? Yeah. So Dave, good, you know what, you did end in the middle of your presentation. There were about 1,002,000 people that had signed on live, and we were live. So thank you for going ahead and doing that, just so that we share that everybody that we're live. Thanks, Dave, for coming. We're going to continue on with our minutes of April the 19th. Be it resolved, the board adopt our April 19th minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichols, seconded by Trustee Pachakowski. Comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. So they passed 8-1. Thank you. We have our superintendent's report. Kat.
So a couple really quick highlights. We do have Dr. Jody Carrington coming to us on Monday, and so we've mentioned that before, and this is around self-care and resilience and coping strategies for all of our staff. So we have all of our sites will have a place that you can just plunk in and watch, and it is from 9:15 until about 10:30 on Monday morning, and it will be on a Teams webinar. So if you'd like to and are available, you can either plunk in at a school, you can also ask and we can get you the link, but our goal was to have folks gathering and chatting about and networking. So feel free to pop into a school and plunk down and hear the presentation if you'd like to. I also wanted to draw some attention to the fact that our Board of Trustees here has once again set aside funds to purchase school supplies for all students. So our schools have been madly ordering things, and thank you to our principals and our secretaries and our purchasing department, because as of last Friday, all of the school supplies for next year have been ordered and will be delivered and here for everyone for next year. We do ask that kids are still bringing their own indoor shoes and gym clothes and backpacks and lunch kits and water bottles, and we'll have a letter that goes out a little closer to the end of June, because there's a lot of stuff that still is going to happen between now and the end of the school year. I feel like I'd like to take the rapid antigen test kit information off of here, but I'm not going to just yet. I'd like to make sure that everybody knows that if you need one, we do have one. And I'm going to welcome Lars as well to our first meeting. Unless there's questions, that's my report.
Anyone for questions for Kathy? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. We have our draft reporting schedule. That's there for information. Anything you want to add to it, Kath?
Just there are two documents there, so I have put together a draft document for 22-23 for folks to look at and process and think about and decide if there's some things we would like to get onto the radar for next year. So we have the where are we currently, as well as the where do we think we want to head for next year.
So Kath, can you just highlight that? So two of the things that we're doing an in-depth, can you just remind the board, we're doing an in-depth study or an in-depth reporting to the board on 2 programs this year and then the suggested 2 programs for next year?
Yeah, so what the board will hear this year is you will hear a report on the French immersion programming, and that will come on June 7th. You will also hear a report on library services, and that will come on June 21st. So we have folks who've been digging in for a good chunk of time these past months, and I will be doing that. We are going to be looking at, as mentioned, a talent development program and probably our arts education. We've put on the back side of the page sort of the order in which we think we need to revisit things. So we would also want to look at that and say if there is something on that back page that we think needs to come up in priority, to let us know, because we'll keep that as a priority list.
So for trustees, part of it is, here's what Kathy's saying to us, and if there's something that we want to eventually have a discussion with Kathy, whether we want her to take a look at a program or whatever, let's have a discussion certainly about it. But as you know, is that there's only so many things that we can evaluate on each year, but we do need to give Kathy some real good lead time about doing that. Comments from anybody? Jody, Secretary Treasurer's report.
Yeah, just to kind of highlight what's been going on in our world. The Transportation Department has been pretty busy keeping up with the affected road conditions with the last few weather systems we've had. So they are being kept aware of road closures and trying to advise folks as soon as possible when they know that could affect bus routes. The Maintenance Department, of course, working on their 5-year capital that was brought to the board last meeting. It's been submitted to the province, and there was some site visits done with Dugald and Oakbank Elementary and Bossier earlier. To highlight on that, I attended with Derek Ryback. We met with the province as well as Kathy. We went with the province in regards to finding proper space for potential portable classrooms for those affected schools. They're definitely at capacity and then some. So it'll be beneficial to get the province out to see where the needs are, get them inside the school to see we are fully utilizing all that space. So got the province out, explain what our needs are, and hopefully we'll get to hear back from them soon. Other things, like Kathy mentioned, school supplies by last week Friday, all schools submitted, and the secretaries and principals did a fantastic job getting all the information to purchasing and getting those recs out there. So, and IT, I would say they've been busy looking at a library module for the start of the school year. So there will be more information to come forward to the board. And that's kind of it. Those are some highlights. Oh, I should also mention, we successfully secured a grant from Efficiency Manitoba for lighting upgrades, I believe at ESS, SMS, and Powerview School. So we received a grant funding for about $3,655 just for the lighting upgrades for those schools.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Trustee Harris?
Just to comment on one of your first points there was about the road conditions and affected by weather. I know our road is poor, and I know we don't issue bike helmets or seat belts to kids on the bus. Do you have any anecdotal reports that the kids are enjoying their roller coaster ride to school and back?
Yeah, I wish I could share some information if it's a fun roller coaster ride for them, but I do know it's a bumpy ride out there. Yeah.
Anything else? Trustee Rowan?
Sorry, just for clarification, the meeting with the province about the portables, where date is that at? Have you made a formal request, or I'm sorry if I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, as far as I know, we have made a request to the province. They were reviewing it, and that's why the meeting came about. They had some questions on the numbers that were submitted, so I think it was before my time when it was submitted, but it has been submitted off to the province.
So some of the follow-up visit was that the province came out to follow up on our request to actually come see the space at those 3 schools. So they were following up on our request at those 3 places to come and see and measure and count all sorts of things on the request.
Anyone else? Trustee Duma?
Just a question about contact that you're having with the SCO and whether there will be a report coming to the board for the elections, trustee elections. Have you had any contact with our election official at all, or to see how things are?
Yeah, when I first started, I reached out and we kind of introduced each other, but that's about it. But I'll definitely discuss with that, knowing that the election and the process is starting and underway. So I'll have a chat with her.
Yeah, that's a great comment for us to make sure that we're on top of it. October's not very far away when we're talking about elections, and so that's something for us to remind ourselves.
Well, just that whether the report comes through the Secretary Treasurer or whether the report comes from the SCO, I think we need to have something pretty timely. Thanks.
No, great point, Trustee Duma. Anything else for Jody? Okay, Jody, 8.1, board business now. We have COVID costs, so that's information. Is there anything that you want to highlight on that?
Probably not. Not a whole bunch. I can say that there was, April is come and gone now, so that information is actual. The rest are projected, so it looks like we have fully utilized, based on projections, based on conversation with the province, we have used those funds.
Anybody questions for Jody, Trustee Duma?
Yeah, sorry. I just wondered if there was any follow-up regarding the water issue, the letters with the water. If there was anything or anything to talk about.
That's later on in the agenda. Yeah.
Karen, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Karen. Trustee Inslee.
With regards to COVID costs, Jody, going forward, are we expecting funding and costs to significantly drop?
So in any of the calls with the province, we haven't been given any indication that there will be Safe Schools funding or additional capital funding coming. That we're not anticipating that at all.
Anything else for Jody? Okay. 8.2 is our financial monitoring report. I'm going to turn to, this was put forth by our finance committee. Okay, Don, let you take it.
Of course, now I've lost it. No, I got it now. So the Finance Committee looked at a monitoring report, and we had decided that it probably wasn't doing the job that it was made for. It was a relic from the Carver model that we used 12 years ago, and at that time we used it for evaluating the superintendent. We don't use that for that anymore. So we decided that we would like a financial report that gives us information that we actually do get in. The Finance Committee gets the report, but it's something like 89 pages or something. It's a lot of pages, and I'm not quite sure if everybody reads it in detail. So what we did is that we came up with a report that we thought would be pertinent to what we thought that everybody on the board should know about the finances. So what we did, we looked at the monitoring report, or the information that we got on February 28th. So this information was already given to us, and all we did was said, okay, if we had gone to the new report, what would the new report look like? And so the figures here, I'm not guaranteeing you that it is 100% accurate, but the figures will be accurate if you look back. These are just a draft one. When we do the March one and the April one, or when we start doing it, they will be accurate. So what I'm asking, I'm just giving you an example of this. It's supposed to be draft. Next meeting, I'm going to have a motion, because there'll be notice of motion, that we will change our monitoring report to this format. Again, this is the things that we thought that everybody would like to know. If there's anything in here that you'd like something extra, let us know. We can add it on. One of the things that on the old financial report, we kept on writing down that we audited the statement. Well, we audit it, we only audit it once a year, so you only have to keep on adding every time that we audit in a statement. So there's something that was redundant that we didn't think that was necessary for us to do.
We did question balance and reserve, whether we should do it monthly or whether we should just do it quarterly. And then we decided that it might be easier if we just did it monthly and we didn't have to decide, is this the month we do it or it's not the month we do it. So that's the reason why we did this monthly. So if there's any other questions, let me know or let the Finance Committee knowing about this. We will be discussing on the 19th of May, and maybe at this time I will talk about that we also having another meeting. It says that the next meeting is May the 19th. We also have a meeting on May the 12th. The reason for that is that if we had the meeting on May 19th, the board meeting is May 17th, so you're not going to get any up-to-date information in for March, and that means you're not going to get it until the first meeting in June. And we thought that was going to be too late, so we made a special meeting on May the 12th, so that that information will be given to you on May the 17th.
So that meeting is the Finance Committee that you're having on May the 12th, right?
That's right.
So again, we have information that's here. So there's a couple ways. If people want to, if there's any kind of thoughts, they can, we'll share very quickly right now. If people have some thoughts as to where it is, to give the Finance Committee some information with your draft. Thank you for the draft and the work of the Finance Committee. I'm going to open it up to see if there's anybody that has comments. You can make a comment tonight. You don't have to make a comment. And you can certainly email everybody and go from there. So is there any comments on the draft financial monitoring report? Anything we're missing? Trustee Duma?
So just to clarify, there's going to be a motion coming to remove the previous financial monitoring report and discard it, because that's the question, to discard what we were using, because I think it was actually a policy. And then the second part, then introducing this as the new template is what I'm guessing. There are two things that I think over time the board has discussed, and that was keeping an eye on sick leave, because that was always the numbers that we were worried about when we were coming to the end of the year, keeping an eye on that number. And I'm just wondering if there's consideration for having that number put in here as to, you know, what is our potential expenses before the end of the year. And is there a place in here where there is a place for the Sunrise Education Foundation, just in terms of the fact that it's a fundraising account, or it could be a fundraising account, and it's charitable status, it's money that comes from the public, just a way of keeping it on the record that somebody's looking at it. Because I know there has to be monthly documents that go to the federal government for the charitable status, etc. So I just wondering if there's somewhere it doesn't get lost.
So I'm going to, Dawn, you don't have to answer that now. That's going to go to your committee. There's a suggestion. Those are two solid good things for us to consider, thinking about. Go ahead, Don.
Actually, I'm not going to answer that one. I realize that I neglected to mention one thing, is that what we are going to be doing is looking at the budget department by department, and we know that already that the fuel cost is going to probably be over, and when it is over a certain amount, we will flag that. So we'll put down, we'll just say that transportation is over. It's not right now, but we'll say if it is over, we'll indicate that it's over because of these reasons, whatever they might be. It could be snow clearing, it could be, I think we probably over on the snow clearing too, but it could be the fuel, but that gives you an idea. You can get that information by going through the big financial report that we give you. Everything that you asked for is in our financial report. What we just done is made a kind of a summary, so you only have to read the 89 pages. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but you don't have to read all those pages to try to get the stuff that we thought that was very important for the board members to know.
Thanks, Don. Any other comments? So today's not your only time to go ahead and do that, but the clock's ticking as you go ahead and meet, and then we come forward. So certainly about a notice of motion as to where we are. So 3 things came up tonight. Dawn, you talked about budget overages, and in there, you know what, it was brought up by Trustee Duma about sick leave totals, and certainly keeping with regard to the monitoring report where we are with the Sunrise Education Foundation. That's something that your committee can go ahead and take a look at and then respond back. Fair enough? Anyone else? Go ahead, Trustee Duma.
I guess I was just kind of surprised by number 5 that they're not using the line of credit right now. I thought it was used on a regular basis. It just was as to how much.
We've never been in the line of credit but if you look back all the things, we'll say for a number of years, we're never in the line of credit in April. I'm sorry, in February. This is in February. I'm not saying we're not in the line of credit now. We get all our money from the municipalities in November, December, January. We'll be in very serious trouble. We're already in the line of credit in February. We shouldn't get into the line of credit until about June. I think that's more or less May, June is when we get in the line of credit, because all we're then getting is the money from the provincial government. The bulk of the money from the municipal government we get by the end of January. So that's why we've never been in the line of credit. Trustee Duma?
Thank you for that. Just to note that the board has made motions to increase the line of credit. It always came through a board motion, and I think then a copy of that motion had to go to the bank or something, I'm not sure. But just to make people know that we have had it change from 20 to 21 mil, I think, over time. So just, it would be nice to know what is our line of credit, if you want to put it in there, what it actually is, and when it was, what it is currently.
So nice work with so Jody and the Finance Committee certainly doing this. We're on a good track, certainly as to where we are. We'll be expecting your motions coming next report, and if there's anybody else that wants to add things, certainly copy everybody. But knowing that the Finance Committee does have a meeting on May the 12th. Thank you for doing this. So we're going to move on, 8.3 drinking water results. I think this is you, Jody.
Yeah, that would be me. Thank you. I think it's important to notify the board on the information that the maintenance department was working on in the last several months. And I want to bring the board and the public up to speed as to what the Sunrise School Division has been doing in regards to lead in water samples, the results, and how we're going to communicate our action plan to the public. So I prepared a bit of a PowerPoint. It'll be presented as PDF on my screen here, but just to kind of go through it, the background in this presentation is back in March of 2019, Health Canada released a new national guideline for lead in drinking water. The guideline lowered the allowable levels of lead in the drinking water from 0.01 milligrams per liter now to 0.005. So it's a pretty large decrease, and it required everybody to start retesting and some results. So we'll go to the next slide here. I don't know why it doesn't want to go. We'll do this. Okay. So a little bit of the history too regarding the province of Manitoba. They have advised school divisions that they will be releasing water testing results on their website, and as of May 15th. So the results are going to be either reflecting a pass, a fail, or the division has not yet tested. So the purpose of the test was to determine the lead amounts in our water sources in our schools. These tests are not mandated at this time. All the tests are completed, all the tests that were completed were voluntarily done by the division and funded, though, by a grant from the province that we were able to secure. The Sunrise School Division did hire a consultant to collect the water samples and submit that to the ASL laboratory in early 2022 for analysis. And the water sources tested in the schools were kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, classroom sinks, custodial mop sinks, and water fountains. So basically anywhere we could receive potable water. A pass would result with water with a result of 0.005 or less of lead, and a fail would be anything above that. So the schools that we did test are shown on here: Enola, Bossier Early Years, Centennial, Dugald, ESS, Gillis, Hazel Ridge, Lactabonnie Senior, Oakbank Elementary, Powerview School, Springfield Collegiate, this should be Springfield Middle School, and Whitemouth. So here's a quick summary of the testing results. Basically, to highlight it, every school did have a fail of some sort. There are several water fountains that may have failed. Some had passing water fountains, but maybe a tap or a sink in the bathroom had a fail. So all schools that we tested did have a fail result. So of course that would concern everybody. So the question is, what do we do next? What are we doing with these testing results? So out of the 13 sites, like I noticed, at least one test resulted in a fail, and a variety of the testing sites failed, which included water fountains and sinks, like I highlighted. Upon receiving any of the results that stated a fail, we labeled all the sources with a label that says "Do not drink water." The label will remain on the water source until the faucet or fountain has been replaced. So it's important that all the schools have been advised that if there's a label on there, do not second guess it, just do not drink from it. The Office of Drinking Water was notified of the results as soon as we received the information. The division applied and secured the grant. The grant amount that we secured was $73,163, significant amount, allowing us to replace all the failed taps and faucets and water fountains. The grants will be used to assist the school division with the lead in the drinking water mitigation project. Fancy word, basically meaning we're going to replace the things that are failing. The project will replace drinking water fountains and faucets, as I mentioned. So shortly, hopefully later this week, we're going to send out a letter regarding the lead in drinking water to all the schools to be distributed to notify staff and parents of the Sunrise School Division in the coming days. So on that letter, as noted by the Office of Drinking Water, if any parents or staff may have concerns about the water levels or what does lead in the water do to them, they can also call Health Links for additional information. And that's it.
Thanks very much, Jody. Any questions? So well laid out, Jody, certainly for the board and certainly for our public, and for us to certainly to our website and get that information out. Nice work. Anyone? Trustee Rowland?
Great report, and I'm really proud of the work that maintenance department has done in proactively taking steps to ensure water is great quality for our kids and they're safe. I have one question about the replacement products that will be coming. Some of the failures resulted in fixtures that were fairly recently installed in our school division, and not necessarily an aged out fountain or something that might come to mind and you could justify. So I'm just kind of wondering, these are newer products. Has the province provided any sort of a standard or approval of some sort of fixtures that aren't going to come around in another 3 years or so and have leaching lead in the thing? Like, this is coming down to quality of products that are available to purchase. So is there any direction from the province and how, steps are we going to take so it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have to ask our maintenance manager, Derek Ryback, to follow up on that question, because as far as I know, there's not been a specific brand or make that they would outline that is safe to be used. I know there's different building codes now that allow or don't allow certain types of soldering and things like that. So I honestly don't know, but we can definitely look into it.
Thank you. Trustee Pachkowski?
Just to clarify for people listening and for the board, so if I'm understanding this correctly, this wasn't a requirement for us to test the water. this was something that we proactively did because the new regs were implemented. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The school division took it upon ourselves to take a look, and knowing that the province was going to be releasing information as well, to take the proactive approach as to understand what is going on. There are municipalities out there that are changing water infrastructure pipes that are 100 years old because of this standard. Fortunately, we've been pretty lucky with the municipalities that are receiving treated water. They annually submit a report to the province reflecting the water levels are in the acceptable level. But yeah, we took it as a voluntary approach to see what's going on.
Anyone else? Anyways, thanks again, Jody. Good work on it. And again, I would encourage parents, if they have questions, can certainly call their schools and get the information from their schools. And if they don't get the information, they can certainly forward to you, but they should be able to get it at their schools. Nice work. 8.4, the agreement with the Bossier Rec Commission. I think what it is, Bossier River Rec Commission. Did you want to talk about that, or did you want me to talk about that? We were looking at agreements. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know this was brought up, or before I even started, questions about should there be a agreement between the Bossier or the Broken Head Recreation Commission. Upon digging further, the facilities that we actually utilize are not owned by the Rec Commission. It's owned by the town of Bossier. There's other facilities that are owned by the RM of Broken Head. And then when we go within, beyond this boundary of these two municipalities, if we reach out to the RM of Springfield, there are community clubs that are owned by community clubs and not the municipality. So it's actually a bigger, very much bigger conversation as to what the direction the board really would like us to take further. We can certainly look at maybe a tri-agreement between the the Broken Head Recreation Commission and the town of Bossier. As I know, the town of Bossier, based on their fees and charges bylaw, they set the fees to rent the Sungrow Center and the aquatics, the splash pool. And then there are the other recreation commissions outside. There are some that own the facilities, and others it'll be again a town or a rural municipality. So it's a larger conversation. And I had a wonderful conversation with the director of recreation out in Springfield, knowing that this conversation has come up several times even before I was here.
I'll come to you in a minute, Art. So when we talked about this, Jody, we have the Edgewater Rec Commission in Powerview. We have the Winnipeg River Recreation Commission that's out in Lac du Bonnet. I don't know if they service Whitemouth as well. They do. Okay. We have the Bossier River Rec Commission. Art is what you're talking about here. We have the Rec Commission that's in Oak Bank. So there's a number of rec commissions, and again, it's just not one size fits all kind of thing as to where we go. So good comments on that. Yeah, there's some work to be done with all of them. Trustee Barry, you had a question?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it's Broken Head River Rec Commission, and just a clarification, maybe our Secretary of Treasury isn't aware, like in the past, the Rec Commission did use Sunrise facilities for part of their programming. So I believe that's what they want to do going forward. So maybe you should reach out and talk to them, talk to the rec program director, some of the chair. So I think that's the step that they want to do going forward. And in the past, our facilities were used for the public, so I hope we can do that in the future and come to an agreement with them. So that's all I have to add tonight, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to go with Trustee Paczkowski and then Trustee Nickel.
Yeah, so fair comment. I mean, I've been pretty, I try to be pretty attentive to our local PACs as well, and I think it's actually quite a two-way street from what you're saying, Art, is that our schools really appreciate the opportunity to use the facilities. I know the earlier school in Bossier, they use the splash pool regularly. They use the Sungrow Center in the winter for skating and that sort of thing. So I would definitely like to see some sort of agreement maintained there, and I don't know what that looks like. But, you know, hearing at the school level that those are programs that the students and kids really enjoy. They've been around a while and they continue to do that, so I think they're really impactful at the community level and the school level, so I'd definitely like to see an agreement maintained and move forward. So,
Thanks. Trustee Nicol?
Yeah, I think it's not only the Broken Head Rec Commission, but White Mouse Rec Commission has had an agreement with Sunrise School Division, and they signed it. And if I remember right, it's supposed to come due in every 5 years, and it's about time to go there again and see whether that is working. So the Sunrise School Division has signed agreements with some rec commissions. So, but because I know for sure White Milk they've signed it. I thought they had signed it with Broken Head too. But usually we've been signing about every number of years, not annually.
Thank you. Anyone else? So great information. Keep us informed certainly as you move forward. Jody, with it, nice work. Thanks for that. 8.5 is our board highlighter. There's been some questions about the board highlighter. Just letting you know that when we have the board highlighter, information comes out from Kathy and Stacy. It comes to myself and Jarrett. Okay the board highlighter with the information, then we move forward with it. So that's the process. And again, so it's really been Jared and I that if there's things that need to be in or whatnot, we've kind of made those decisions. So if there's anything that we want differently there, certainly come and talk to Jared and I, and we'll certainly go forward with Stacy. Any comments? Okay. So we're going to go to 8.6, motion to rescind policy 21. I think that's you, Trustee Harris.
Are you going to read the motion?
Oh, I sure can. Sorry, sir. Be it resolved that the board rescind policy 21 from the Sunrise Board Policy Manual in response to public health orders that changed on March 15th, 2022. Be it further resolved that the Sunrise Board Policy Manual clearly indicate that Policy 21, mandatory proof of COVID-19 vaccination status or COVID testing, has been rescinded. Moved by Trustee Harris, seconded by Trustee Nicol. Comments on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. So, I need a motion here, this thing, right? In 10 minutes. So we don't have an official motion. Too late now. Okay, thank you for doing that. Where am I? In-camera minutes motion. So I did inform trustees that I would be bringing forward a motion. I'll get a motion on the floor, and then certainly we can have some discussion. And the motion is read as follows. Just give me a minute. Yes, so be it resolved that the board no longer provide written minutes for the in-camera portion of our meetings. That is the motion. I need someone to move that motion. Okay, moved by Dawn, seconded by Trustee Petrikowski. Okay, so it's on the floor. So what happened is that I did make some calls, and so you got some of the information in an email from me. That email you got from Janice Arnold. She provided us some information that there's a vast majority of boards that do not provide minutes on for in-camera items. When I called Alan Campbell today, I didn't call him today. When I called Alan Campbell, He's the board chair for Interlake. One of the comments that he made was in-camera minutes can be accessible by FIPA, and so you just need to be careful certainly of that. When I took a look at the in-camera minutes didn't tell us a whole lot. The minutes did not tell us. The package gave us the information. So if we ever needed to look for information, we can find it in our package, and we can search our package online and go back 10 months and find out what was on in camera. And so the combination of that, and then I did reach out to Vera Chernecki. I did reach out to Vera Chernecki. She is what I'm told as the lone person parliamentarian in the province. Whether that's true or not, that's what I was told. And I did ask her about minutes, and I did ask her certainly the conversation that we were having some difficulty about unanimous consent. Anyways, so I did some homework that we asked us to go ahead and do, and I'm just finding that minutes, there's really not a reason to it, so that's the reason that it's there, that I've made the motion that we don't carry in-camera minutes. However, I would love to give everybody an opportunity to speak to it, and then we'll go ahead and vote on it. So I'm going to go round table and give people an opportunity. Trustee Nichol, you are ready to talk.
Yeah, the information that you need to know, because we can't do anything in camera anyway. We make motions out of camera in regular. So if you want to know what's happening in camera, you just can. Nothing happens in camera officially unless it's in regular. So we get all the information. So we know history. 50 years from now, you can go to the regular meeting. You can see what happened. We don't have to worry about that. And I agree with you that because of FIPA, you can get the information from FIPA. So therefore, it's very important that we don't put it in there. I'll give you another thing from my personal experience. As a counselor at the school when I was counseling, I could not counsel any kid. If I did any written document, that could be done by FIPA. So essentially what I did is I made my own notes, but it was in another language, which no one knew about. And so if they, that's right, I made my own language. So if they subpoenaed me, I could give them something out. There's nothing in the law that says I had to interpret it for them. I just could give it to them, and that's it. So it's very important, I think, because sometimes we get some confidential information in there, and we've got to be very careful. It's better not to have them, because we get the information eventually anyway.
Thanks, Trustee Nichol. Thanks, Trustee Nichol. I'm going to tease you a little bit about your own language. So when we need things, we're going to go to Trustee Nichol for a language. I am going to go round table. Russ, any comment to this?
Not really. I kind of think we don't need the in-camera minutes, so that's really all. I didn't have much.
Trustee Rowland?
I'm satisfied with the information you provided.
Trustee Doomer?
I think the in-camera, like the information that you provided to us is good information. It's not new, of having been a trustee for years. The way the in-camera minutes has been handled differently over the years, depending on who's on the board table. We at one point, when we moved to an email system, like an online system, we ended up having a lot more documentation through ESB and email. We at one point had all documentation came with in red papers at the table, and then at the end of an in-camera meeting, all of those red papers had to be returned to the Secretary Treasurer. We weren't allowed to take any of those out of the room, and then they were shredded. So we have definitely changed things over time. I think that the issue for me is it doesn't hurt to not have in camera. They do mention that you have in camera for specific reasons. And I don't think it has to be an automatic assumption that every time we have a board meeting on Tuesday nights that we have to have in camera, because we don't have to. in camera should really just be about those 3 or 4 items that are designated, such as personnel, land agreements, negotiations. Those things are handled in camera. So we don't have to have 6 o'clock as an in-camera meeting. In fact, we could use it more, make it more useful and have it as a committee meeting to discuss board development if we wanted to. But the issue for me still is the concern over minutes and previous minutes, and I think that you have information from Vera about how minutes are to be done and written, and the content of minutes. Historically, there's an issue with some of those minutes, and you can go back and through Robert's rules and go through historical minutes and actually have previous minutes deleted or removed. So I think that's still something that we have to think about. The other part I think that we need to talk about also is our own legal liability as trustees when we're taking notes. Because if anything went to court, your notes could all come into court too. And I don't think that we have had that kind of board development here as trustees to know what we're putting ourselves into when we take notes. So I think it's a good discussion, but I don't think it's over. I would have, like I'm okay with having them removed, but I think your motion is too absolute, because there might be a period of time when you need to have something written down. So I'm not so sure whether it's an absolute that there's no more minutes. I just wonder if the motion could be made differently. So that's all.
Thanks, Trustee Duma. Trustee Bering?
The way I see this here is, contrary to what Mr. Chairman says, there's not 1 million people watching us. There's not 1 million people looking at our notes for the minutes. So I really don't think there's a big interest in it, to be quite honest with you. That's my opinion. And I don't see the concern of it. I'm kind of indifferent in it, whether they're or not in camera. I understand, of course, we're not going to make any we can't pass anything, so that's quite true. There's no validity to them being there, so I'm sort of indifferent to them actually being there.
Thanks, Trustee Bering. Trustee Ainsley?
I think that we should still keep some form of documentation, but as to detail, I don't really have an answer as regards to what. I appreciate from a FIPA perspective, but I'm an organizer and like to have everything written down and something I can refer back to. So getting rid of them completely, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that, but I can't give you a solution as to what I actually would like to see change right now.
Thanks, Trustee Ainsley. Trustee Pachkowski?
No, thanks for the information, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Trustee Harris?
Thank you, Paul, for getting this information. I think as we've commented on in the past, if we get a report from experts that we like to take their opinion and follow it, and I think we should do the same here. It's interesting that a lot of other school divisions aren't doing in-camera minutes. That was interesting to see that, so thank you.
All right, so everybody's had a chance to talk about it. You want to talk about it again?
I made the motion, so I have this last say.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Why do you think I made the motion? The motion doesn't say that we're not going to have the agenda. We're still going to have the agenda. The agenda will still be there. So what took place, what we talked about is going to be there. What's not going to be there is what was said or what was decided in there. What's decided there is in the regular meeting, and that's where you get the information from, which means that right now, anybody, if you say anything in camera, anybody, I don't care if there's only one person listening, can file a paper report and get that confidential information out. If I know the confidential information can be out in the public, there might be some chances that there might be some things I do not want to say, but I would say confidentially, but I don't want out in the public. And that's the reason why we don't take minutes. That's the reason why 80-some% of the other board members or boards in Manitoba realize it's not a good idea to take minutes about confidential information. So I urge everybody to vote for the motion.
Okay. Thanks, Trustee Nicol. And I forgot that you made the motion. Thank you for doing that. So clearly the motion is in your package. It's be it resolved that the board no longer provide written minutes for the in-camera portion of their meetings. We're going to go ahead and vote. So thank you. It passed with 7-1 and 1 abstention. Thank you. 8.8 is our school calendar, and we've had that information on there. Kathy, I'm going to give it to you. Oh no, I'm going to put the motion on the floor. Be it resolved that the board approve the 2022-2023 school calendar, where the last day of classes before Christmas break would be the Thursday, December 22nd, and the first day of classes after Christmas break would be Monday, January the 9th. I'm going to get a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Pachakowski, seconded by Trustee Rowland. Remember, this is version 2 that Kathy had put forward, correct, Kath? Kath, I'm going to let you talk about it.
Sure, thanks. We've had this a couple of times now where we've chatted about it, because this is one of those years where, based on where Christmas Day falls, we have the option of having a split week holiday, or minimizing the number of PD days we have from 10 to 9, and having 10 full days after the holidays. So this is the option that we've been mulling about. We had a couple of last pieces, so I can say now that we have, I believe, 4 school divisions in our area, Evergreen, Interlake, and Whiteshell, that are going to be looking at the same calendar. So we've got a bit of a regional group that is looking at this calendar. It will be different than Metro, and it will be different than some other school divisions, but that is one of those things that the province has allowed us to do this year, just based on where the days fall.
So I'm going to go around table. I'll start with Jared, and I'll come back to you. Trustee Pachakowski?
No comment.
Trustee Harris?
I'm fine with the motion.
Trustee Nicol? Trustee Reed? Trustee Rowland? Trustee Duma?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Trustee Barry? Trustee Inslee? Let's call the question then. So it passed 9-0. Thank you for that. 8.9, the balanced school day. Be it resolved that the board approve the balanced school day renewal request for Gillis School. Motion by Trustee Nicol, seconded by Trustee Duma. Any questions to this? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. It passed 9-0. School fees and field trip report. This is something that we just got, right, Kath? So I'm going to let you speak to it, but Kath, we're gonna table this just so that, because trustees just got this information, so we want to give trustees some opportunity to read it. So we're not going to do anything with it. So this is for information, and we'll bring back that at the next time we get together. So Kath, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I did want to put this together and include it here. We had a principals meeting last Wednesday, the 27th, and entirely my fault, did not have enough time in between interviewing and getting that information to be able to prepare it for the board. So I did want to include it, make sure that you had the information. The principals had some really good feedback and some really good questions for you around what we use school fees for and what we do with field trips and why we might want to be looking at that. Again, I think this is the follow-up or part of the process that we wanted to continue after we looked at school supplies. So wanted to make sure you had quality, relevant information and just didn't have enough time to get it to you by Friday.
So in fairness, we just got this, Kath. We're not going to go ahead and do a lot of discussion about it, but we'd like you to read it. It is something that's pretty important, and we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back the next time we get together. I would encourage that you talk to your school administrators, certainly about this, to get their feedback and as to where things are going. Trustee Harris.
The note on our ESB item says it'll come back at the June 7th meeting, not the next meeting.
We knew you would catch that. Thank you very much. Just like there isn't 1,000,001 people, I apologize. I know there's not 1,000,001 that are watching us, but thanks for catching that, Trustee Harris. Anyone else? Okay. We're tabling it. Thank you. Let's move on. Where are we? Monthly enrollment report 811. That's for information. 812, board motion report. So thanks, Kath, for putting that together. That would have been a fair bit of work, but that's certainly there. Did you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I want to add that the fair amount of work is not Kathy, but indeed Stacy. I just condensed it down to the work that you did this year and added some of the actions to it. So the hard work is not mine. It belongs to your executive assistant.
Thanks, Stace, for putting this together. It is something that's there for people to go ahead and take a look at. We asked for this. Thank you for doing that. Anyone comments? Trustee Harris?
So I see this as another living document. We have a couple of them, and I think this is a good, nice one to have going forward. Thanks.
Yeah, great point, Trustee Harris. It's something that we want to continue to go ahead and see. Yes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. 8.13, Nicole Dugald School Field Trip. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Nicole Dugald School Field Trip, grade 8 French immersion students to Camp Morton, June 7th, 9th, 2022, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Moved by Trustee Rowland, seconded by Trustee Inslee. Thank you. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 9-0. Thank you. 8.14, Springfield Middle School, grade 6 Ukrainian language camp, May 25th to the 26th. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School, grade 6 Ukrainian language camp, May 25th, 26th, subject to superintendent's final approval. Moved by Trustee Inslee, seconded by Trustee Duma. Thank you. No questions, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0. Thank you as well. 8.15 is a proposal to subdivide the RM of Broken Head. So that's for information for you. And again, keep that information as we continue to, as Jody now will continue to put all those together. Any questions on that? All right. And 8.16 is the notice of public hearing of application for variation. That's for information. Jody, did you want to talk briefly about that, or just as long as everybody understands what a variation is? Can you just briefly do that, Jody?
I'll try my best, but I believe with this one, it is moving it from a single-family dwelling, like a single-family home, to a multi-family home. That's what I understand. Or, sorry, it was, I should reread this again. It sounds like they're asking for a variation for the minimum yard side to street. So I think the standard here is 15 feet and they want to reduce that. So the property will be closer to the side of the road. So in regards to affecting our school division, I don't see this one being a huge impact. Yeah.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions? Okay, so that's for information. Thanks, Jody, for doing that. 8:17 is our policy committee. Trustee Harris, floor is yours.
Our next meeting is scheduled for May the 12th.
Thank you. We have a finance committee, so Chair, Trustee Nichol, floor is yours.
All right, there's two things that I'd like to mention. That we've got these are draft minutes only, so which means that the committee hasn't approved them. So when you see them next time, they will be final. The other thing is I'm suggesting that you allow the finance committee to work on the identity bylaw and try to give you a report by the first meeting in June. The identity bylaw should be changed. Usually we change it always before the election, so that new trustees don't have to come in and start working on what they're getting paid. So I'm suggesting that we work on that and give you a draft report on. Hopefully we can do the first meeting in June, and then you look at it. Then we'll probably, if everything's okay with it, then we'll move it last meeting in June. So it'll be ready to go.
Thanks, Trustee Nichol. Are we okay with, as a board, just I'm looking for kind of consensus and head nodding that we ask them to ask the finance committee to work on the indemnity bylaw and then bring it back to us? Do I have heads nodding, or are we okay with that direction? It seems like we're okay with that direction. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. So Trustee Nichol, you are the signing authority for the month of May. Thank you. There is not a check register, and we do have on there the Education Foundation Committee. It's a standing item that will continue to be on there. Jody, there is something that we probably, you know what, as you're getting your feet wet, we do need to look at that and come back to the group here. Okay? Sorry, Trustee Duma.
Yeah, just in regards to that, I sent an email to Jody and to the previous committee just to see if we can set up a Teams meeting just to bring Jody up to speed.
Great idea. Thank you for doing that. I saw that. I appreciate it. So Jody, you can certainly respond back to the group. Professional development, just a reminder about the approval process. As of right now, as we're looking to go ahead and make changes to the indemnity bylaw, we're a little bit loose about how we do things, certainly with trustees and PD. So I think that's part of it, is what you're going to go ahead and work on. Don, keep going.
Not only that, since I'm signing authority for May, when some of them come across my desk, I know myself, if they don't follow policy, I'm not going to sign it. So I would like to have two motions made, or we can make one motion together. There was a PD that Trustee Duma went in Saskatchewan and in Saskatoon, and we never gave her approval. We never made a motion to approve capsule either, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve those two, because then the bylaw does say that you must, again, it's a little bit vague. It says that if it's out of the division, out of the province, you have to get approval. Now, is the meeting that you do virtually, it's in Saskatoon, you would stay in Manitoba, so you get the approval not. So that's what we want to discuss, but in order to facilitate that, I think it'd just be easier, so because I think people would like to get paid for these in services, so that we just make a motion now, and then we've got the approval, and then I don't even have to worry about going back to the finance committee and say, I'm not signing that check because it hasn't been approved. So I'm making the motion right now that that we approve the PD for the PD in Saskatoon and the capsule that was just lately.
Okay, Jody. Okay, Stacy. So Trustee Nichol is making a motion to approve trustee PD for Saskatoon and trustee Saskatoon. What was the date of it, trustee Duma? Okay, so the trustee PD and for the Saskatoon for the month that happened in the month of April, and the PD for Capsule PD that happened May 1, 2, and 3. Is that good enough? Okay, so leave the date out. Let's leave the date out, just to make it easy, okay?
I think the thing that I want to make it clear is that nobody went anywhere, and part of the reasons of doing this is because normally it was a liability issue, which is why it was a motion at the board. We're not worried about any liability because nobody's moving anywhere. So that was one of the reasons we always wanted a motion. So if it's about spending money, I mean, I don't care, we'll make the motion, but it was for the Rural Education Conference, and it was March the 27th and the 28th. The National Congress on Rural Education was actually the formal title.
Can you make sure you give those two things to Stacy? But that's with the motion that we're going to go on, to go ahead and do that. And Stacy can get that from you. But those are the two conferences that we're talking about, Capsule and the conferences that you're talking about going to.
That went to.
They went to, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that. It would be nice to say that it was done online though, for both of them. So the public wants to know we never went anywhere.
They are done online, and certainly that's what you're gonna work at with the indemnity bylaw about. But part of it is about going. Yes, both conferences were online. Thank you for that. So we have Trustee Nicol making the motion. Do you want to amend something?
Capsule allows you, if I didn't see something online today, because I was there, but if I missed an hour for some reason, I can go back the next day and find that. So do I get paid if I go back? That's all things that we got to discuss at the Finance Committee. So the virtual, when you get to virtually, there is so many variables that we have to decide as a board what we're going to do. I don't think there's any one right or wrong way of doing it, but I think we as a board should decide this is what's going to happen. Same thing, we got to decide today, is Capsule a half a day or was Capsule a full day? Because our policy says that it should be 4 hours plus traveling time. Does that include, does traveling time mean that the time I have to get my computer on, because it started from 12 to 4. I can't start at 12, I got to get my computer on, so is that including driving time? So is it a day or is it a half a day? See, these are all the things that the Finance Committee is going to be talking about.
Okay. Okay, so I think though that we have two professional development conferences that people have attended. I think that it's got to be some integrity yourselves as to what you're going to go ahead and claim, because it is very loose, and so I think that that's something that each trustee needs to go ahead and look at. And yes, it's about the time that you're really putting in, and it's about your knowledge about what you're going ahead and gaining. Until the indemnity bylaw gets completed, it really needs to be up to individual trustees to make that call as to what they're looking at. So I think that, and we've done that in the past. We have given permission for people to go to conferences, and it has been a board motion. So that motion is on the floor, and it's seconded by.
It wasn't on the floor. We were discussing it, but it's seconded now by myself.
Seconded by Trustee Petrikowski. Thank you. So any other further comments to it? So there's no further comments to it. Stacy, are we doing this by hand? Okay, so I'm going to do this by hand. Oh, sorry, Karen. Go ahead.
It's not, well, it's kind of to do with this motion, I guess, but I had a conversation with Scott prior to him leaving regarding virtual PD sessions. I'd seen a couple that I wanted to attend, and so do we have to bring those to the board for approval? Because Scott told me that if I saw like a 1 or 2 hour like webinar, I've seen a couple, that I just pay for it and put it on my expenses. So could I have some clarity on that, please?
So that's a great point. part of it is that if people were traveling, they would come and get permission from the board. If somebody wants to pick up a book and read something, you have that ability through a PD account to go ahead and do that. And it's actually Jody that's coming back to you about whether it's yay or nay. And if we don't like what Jody is saying, we would come back to the entire board about going ahead and doing that. So there is individual PD accounts to go ahead and do some of those kind of things. I think that until we clear up our indemnity bylaw, which Dawn is suggesting the Finance Committee do, and then come back here, I think that if somebody wants to go ahead and do something, part of it is you're a trustee, you've got to, you're talking about your own integrity, about what you're going ahead and doing. If it's learning, great. You know, the whole idea is certainly about us doing some learning. So I think that would be your call, Karen, as to what it is. This one right here, because we had the two things, there were some questions about, okay, so we hadn't said yes to capsule and it was always about going, but I think that we're just about to vote on this, and so I think that that's your call to go ahead and make. Trustee Pachikowski?
I don't want to add any more to this discussion, to be honest with you, but I think when we talk about these things now, nearing the end of our term, I think our trustees need to use some common sense with the division in mind and the financial position of the division in mind before you go ahead and commit to some PD that's going to cost some, some dollars, when the value for dollars for our division, are we going to get that? Because we have an election coming up this fall, and not to say that none of us are going to return to the table, but I would just throw that out there too, for us to think about as trustees.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so I'm going to go around the room and call a vote. Trustee Pachikowski, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Yes. Trustee Harris?
Yes.
Trustee Nichol?
Yes.
Trustee Reed? Trustee Rowland?
Yes.
Trustee Duma? Yes. Trustee Berry?
Yes.
Trustee Inslee, yes, and Trustee Mangios, yes, so it's a 9-0. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for doing that, Stacy. If you need some details about some information, get that from some details from Trustee Duma just shortly afterwards. So we have we don't have a financial monitoring report. Board correspondence. You've got a bunch of information from us. Board meetings, May 17th and June the 7th. Questions from the public. Jody, do we have any questions from the public?
No, we don't.
So there's no questions from the public. We don't have to move in camera. We do have a motion. Thank you. So we do have a motion, two motions from in camera. Just one, sorry. Be it resolved that the board offer the position of a Cole Edward Schreier School Assistant Principal, 0.5 FTE, effective September the 6th, 2022, as recommended by the superintendent. I need a mover and a second, or moved by Trustee Pachikowski, seconded by Trustee Harris. If there's no discussion, we'll vote. Adjourned, right? It passed 9-0. Thank you. And 18 is an adjournment. So thanks very much. Drive safe, everybody. Enjoy the evening. I do think it's going to be 19 and 20 degrees over the next few days. So right on. Have a good one.